Hi, everybody. So, yesterday we worked on factoring quadratic trinomials that had just a 1 as the coefficient in front of the first term. So, today we're going to look at factoring quadratic trinomials excuse me, that have a number other than 1 at their front. And I'll be honest with you, this is just going to take some guess and checking, some educated guess and checking. So the first thing I would do when I look at something like this, we have 3x squared plus 7x plus 2. Okay, we know that we're going to have two binomials. And what I would look at is we've got a factor of 3 in the front, which is a 3 times 1 for factors, if I list them. And we've got a 2 in the back, which is the 2 times 1. And now what we got to do is we got to look here and say, all right, there's an x squared term. So I'm going to put an x here and an x here. And I've got to figure out how do I get my inside and outside FOIL items to add up to 7 and then get a product of 2 at the end. So honestly, it's just going to take some work. So if I put 3x here and just x here, the 3 and the 1, okay, I know that I have a 2 that I can times by 3 or a 1 that I can times by 3. So 3 will be connected. Let's see, I'm looking for a 7, so I think I'm going to put the 2 here. 3 times 2 is 6. And 1 is the other factor of 2, and that is going to go back here. So what do I end up with? I end up with a 6x and a 1x. Now, 6x and 1x can go together to make 2x. And since it's a plus plus all the way across, I know I'm going to have a plus plus here. So now looking at FOIL, let's always check via FOIL or multiplying it out. So first times first, that's a 3x squared. My outsides are going to be the 3x times the 2, which is 6x. My inside is going to be the 1 times the x, which is 1x, and 1 times 2, which is 2. Then look at what you have and combine your common terms. 6x's plus 1x's makes 7x's. And the rest of it just stays the same. So I know when I factor this quadratic trinomial, these are my two factors. Okay, let's look at the next one. Remember, this just takes a lot of guess and check. So guess and check. Pencils are your friend here. All right, so let's see. I've got a 2 here and I've got a 3 here, but notice we've got something different in the middle. Our sum item is a 1, a negative 1, and our product is a negative 3. So 2 gives me 2 times 1. 3 gives me 3 times 1. But now I need to have a difference of 1. And to get a difference of 1, I think I'm going to pair the 1 and the 3 together and the 2 and the 1 together, because 3 take away 2 is 1. All right, so let's set up our two binomials. I'm going to have a 2x, and this is going to be x based on these factors for the first position. I want my 3 to be opposite my 2. So the 3 is going to be on the inside and the 1 is going to be here. That way when I connect, my insides make a 3x, my outsides make a 2x. Now I can work to get my negative 1x. Who needs to be negative to make the result a negative 1? The 3 needs to be a negative, and the 2x needs to be a positive. So this is going to be a minus sign. This is going to be a plus sign. Here are my factors. Now, always you check it by FOIL. So check by FOIL. 2x times x, that's the first times the first, is 2x squared. 2x times 1 is a positive 2x. That's my outside terms. Negative 3 times x, those are my inside terms. And then negative 3 times a positive 1 is negative 3. Again, always look to simplify when possible by collecting your like terms. And we do get 2x squared minus x minus 3, which is what we want in the beginning. So you're going to have some patience. You're going to have to be willing to try some things out in order to get this figured out. All right. Example number 3 is on the back side. Find the length and width of the rectangle. Just to let you know, this area of this rectangle, it's hard to see, is 6x squared minus 11x plus 4. So again, what am I going to do? I'm going to factor out the first coefficient and the last constant. 6 can be 1 times 6 or 2 times 3. And 4 is 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. Okay, I see that this is not a plus situation all the way across, so I will need to have a sum that makes something negative and a product that makes something positive. So 2 ways to get positive numbers. You can multiply positive times positive or negative times negative. These are both going to be negatives because multiply 2 negatives, you get a positive. Add 2 negatives, you get a negative. So I'm going to put my binomials and set them up. X here and X here. I know it's going to be negative, negative. And now I have to find combinations that are going to give me a total of negative 11. So let's see here. I could have 4 and 6. Well, that's 10. That doesn't work. I could have 2 here and 12. 2 and 12, well, that makes 13. So that doesn't work. So this 2 times 2 is out of the question. Now let's check our other combinations. 2 times 3. What's 2 times 4? That is 8. And 3 times 1, that is 3. So an 8 and a 3 combo, I think 8 plus 3 makes 11. So I'm going to put the 2 here, the 3 here. I want this 2 paired with the 4, so when I do my outside multiplication, I get negative 8. And this 3 with the 1. Because when I do my inside multiplication, I get negative 3. And then we're just going to double check. Let's see here. Negative 3x for my inside. Negative 8x for my outside. That does give me negative 11x. If I check my last, negative 1 times negative 4 gives me 4. So there's my plus 4 at the end. And 2x times 3x is 6x squared. Here's my factored form. And it did check by FOIL. All right. Another scenario that you might get is you might look at these numbers, or maybe numbers and letters, and you might have a factor that's common to all 3 terms. Remember, that's called the greatest common factor. So I'm looking at 30, 14, and negative 8. 30, 14, and 8. And I believe, since they're all even, 2 works. So before I even start pulling apart my trinomial, my quadratic trinomial, I'm going to factor out a 2. Divide everything by 2. So I'm going to get 2 times 30 divided by 2 is 15. X squared plus 14 divided by 2 is 7x minus 8 divided by 2 is 4. All right. Now if I double check, 15, 7, and 4 do not have a greatest common factor. So now I can continue on. Remember, 2 is still part of the factored form. I have an x and an x here. I want to get a product that's a negative 4 and a sum that is a positive 7. So it looks to me like I need a 1 negative and 1 positive. Factors of 15. Factors of 15 are 1 times 15 and 3 times 5. Factors of 4 are 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. Again, I'm going to have one positive and one negative, so I'm going to have to play around with this a little bit. If I take the outsides, I get a 4x, and the insides is a 15x. There is no way to take a 4x and a 15x and end up with a 7x for the middle. So that's out. 2x and 30x, that's way out. So this one is not in the running because I've checked it against both of my factor pairs of 4. Now I'm going to look at the 3 times 5. 3 times 4 is 12 for my outsides. My insides is 5. 12 take away 5. I do believe that gives you 7. So these are my winners. Okay, so let's see here. I want 3 and 4 paired together to make 12. And I want 5 and 1 paired together. This is a 1, I don't have to write it, to make 5. Now the question is, I need one of these to be a negative. I want a 14x as my, a 7x as my total when I add up my insides and my outsides. So I'm going to have my bigger pair be a positive. 3x times 4 is 12x. 5 times x is 5x. I need this to be my positive and this to be my negative, because if I take 12x, take away 5x, I get 7x. So I'm going to put a negative or a minus sign in front of the 5 to make that a negative 5x, and I'm going to put a plus in front of the 4 to make it 12x. And when you write out your factors, do not forget, you're going to need that little 2. Okay, don't forget to check it. I would multiply the binomials first, then multiply by 2.